Welcome back to our channel Coins World History. As you knew that old is gold, but these rare Lincoln wheat pennies, coin that are most valuable than you think. Don't spend one of them, you're lucky if you have one of these. So please watch complete video and find your treasure. Let's start this top one today. We've got an exciting discovery that might just blow your mind. We're diving into the world of one of the most iconic and sought-after coins in American history, the 1945 wheat penny. Now you might think it's just a penny, but trust me, there's much more to this little coin than meets the eye. This particular wheat penny could be worth way more than its face value, and I'm about to tell you why. The 1945 wheat penny was minted at a time when America was wrapping up World War II. The United States, fresh off its victory, was entering a new era of prosperity, and this coin represents a small but significant piece of that history. The design of the coin, with its famous wheat stalks on the reverse, has captivated collectors for decades. But what makes the 1945 version so special? Let's take a deeper dive first. Let's talk about the design. On the obverse side of the 1945 wheat penny, you'll find the image of President Abraham Lincoln, whose portrait has graced the penny since 1909. On the reverse side, we see two stalks of wheat surrounding the words 1 cent, which is why it's called the wheat penny. The design is simple yet elegant, capturing the spirit of the time, with a focus on agriculture and strength, reflecting the importance of farming in the U.S. economy during that period. However, there's more to the story than just a simple, well-designed coin. Over time, the value of the 1945 wheat penny has surged, especially for those that have unique qualities. The first thing collectors look for is the condition of the coin. Most wheat pennies from 1945 are in worn-out condition due to heavy circulation, which means they aren't worth much. However, if you happen to have one in uncirculated or near mint condition, you're in for a real treat. Coins that show little to no signs of wear and tear, with sharp details, can command a much higher price than typical examples. But it doesn't stop there. The real value in a 1945 wheat penny lies in the rare errors that can make a particular coin stand out. These error coins are what collectors dream of finding, as they're one-of-a-kind pieces that could drastically increase in value. Some of the most sought-after variations of the 1945 wheat penny include coins with double dies, where the design appears twice, or coins with unusual minting flaws. One of the most famous error types for this coin is the D over D variety. This means that the mint mark D, which indicates the Denver Mint, was struck twice, creating an overlapping effect. That makes the coin particularly valuable. Another important factor in determining the value of a 1945 wheat penny is the type of metal it's made of. While most pennies from this era are composed of 95% copper, certain rare versions of the coin were made with a different alloy, which can lead to variations in color and weight. These rare metal types are incredibly valuable because they were only produced for a short period of time, making them highly coveted by collectors who want to add a rare piece to their collection. Now let's talk about rarity. Although millions of 1945 wheat pennies were minted, very few have survived in pristine condition or with notable errors. In fact, most of these coins are heavily worn, from years of being passed through the hands of Americans during the war and beyond. As a result, the number of coins in mint condition is incredibly small, which drives up their worth in the collector's market. S0. If you have a 1945 wheat penny sitting in your collection, don't just dismiss it as another penny. Take a closer look. Is it in excellent condition? Does it have any unique features or minting errors? If so, you could be sitting on a small treasure. Now here comes the jaw-dropping part. The highest recorded sale for a 1945 wheat penny in pristine condition has been an incredible $93,000. Yes, you heard that right, $93,000 for a single penny. That's how valuable a rare, error-filled or well-preserved 1945 wheat penny can be. So if you happen to have one of these pennies in your collection, don't just toss it aside. It could be worth a fortune. Top 2, we're diving into one of the most sought-after pennies in American coinage history, the 1944 wheat penny. While it might look like just another penny at first glance, don't be fooled. This little coin has a lot of surprises up its sleeve. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just starting out, stick with me to find out why. The 1944 wheat penny could be worth far more than its face value. The 1944 wheat penny was minted during a fascinating time in American history. The United States was in the midst of World War II, and the country was going through a massive economic shift. The war had led to a shortage of metals needed for coinage. So in 1943, the U.S. government switched to a steel penny. But by 1944, copper was back and the familiar copper wheat penny design returned. marking a pivotal moment in coinage history. But here's where things get really interesting. The 1944 wheat penny isn't just another run-of-the-mill coin. The reason this particular penny has garnered so much attention from collectors is its rarity and the unique errors that make certain versions incredibly valuable. If you've ever come across a 1944 wheat penny, you might have noticed something unusual about some of them. There are coins with distinctive features that make them stand out and turn them into true treasures for collectors. Let's start with the design. The front of the coin features the iconic portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, a design that has appeared on the penny since 1909. The reverse side showcases two stalks of wheat, hence the name wheat penny. This design, simple yet elegant, has become a symbol of American coinage. But the real value of the 1944 wheat penny comes from the various errors and minting irregularities that make certain versions much more desirable. For example, the most well-known and sought-after error is the steel cent. While the U.S. Mint switched back to copper for the 1944 wheat penny, some of the coins that were struck were made using leftover steel plankets, which were supposed to be used for the 1943 steel pennies. As a result, there are rare 1944 pennies that were mistakenly minted with steel rather than copper. These error coins are extremely valuable and highly prized by collectors because of how rare they are. Finding a 1944 wheat penny made of steel instead of copper can make your heart race because it's worth much more than a typical copper penny. The second error that makes the 1944 wheat penny stand out is the double die variety. A double die coin occurs when the die used to strike the coin is misaligned, leading to a duplication of certain design elements. In the case of the 1944 wheat penny, this error can cause Lincoln's image or the lettering on the coin to appear double, creating a unique look that collectors are always on the lookout for. These types of errors are exciting because they make the coin unique and can drive up its value significantly. Another thing that drives up the value of the 1944 wheat penny is its condition. As with most collectible coins, the better the condition, the higher the price. A well-preserved, uncirculated 1944 wheat penny can be worth much more than a worn, circulated one. Coins that have been kept in excellent condition, free from damage, scratches, or heavy wear, are always in high demand. The more pristine the coin, the more collectors are willing to pay for it. So, you might be wondering, what's the price of a rare 1944 wheat penny? Well, it can vary depending on the condition and the type of error it has, but some of these error coins can fetch incredible amounts of money. Are you ready for the big reveal? A single 1944 wheat penny in perfect condition, or one with a rare error, can be worth as much as $96,000. That's right, $96,000 for just one penny. Imagine finding something like that in your collection, or in your spare change. So if you have a 1944 wheat penny, or even if you come across one in your change, don't just toss it aside. Take a closer look at it. Is it in great condition? Does it have any signs of an error or minting flaw? It could be worth far more than you think. And if you find one of these rare coins, you might just have a small fortune in your hands. Top 3, or taking a deep dive into a coin that might just be sitting in your collection unnoticed, or perhaps even in your spare change. I'm talking about the 1950 wheat penny, a coin that has fascinated collectors for decades. While most people see it as just another penny, let me tell you, this particular coin holds a secret that could make you a lot of money. So grab your magnifying glass and pay attention, because by the end of this video, you might just be looking at your coins in a hold away. The 1950 wheat penny is part of the famous wheat penny series, which was minted by the United States from 1909 to 1958. The front of the coin features a portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, while the reverse side showcases two stalks of wheat, symbolizing America's agricultural strength. It's a simple yet elegant design, and this coin has remained an icon in American numismatics for over a century. But here's where it gets interesting. The 1950 wheat penny isn't just any run-of-the-mill coin. What makes this penny so special are the rare and unique features that set it apart from the rest of the series. While most 1950 wheat pennies were mass-produced and circulated in large quantities, there are some key factors that make certain versions of this coin incredibly valuable. Let's talk about rarity first. Even though millions of 1950 wheat pennies were minted, not all of them are created equal. The majority of these coins show signs of heavy circulation. Scratches, wear, and faded details are common. But what makes a 1950 wheat penny truly rare and valuable is finding one in exceptional condition. Coins that have been preserved in mint or near mint condition, free of significant wear, are much harder to come by. Collectors are constantly on the lookout for these pristine coins, as they are much more desirable and, of course, much more valuable. If you happen to have a 1950 wheat penny in perfect condition, you could already be sitting on a small treasure. Now, let's dive into the errors that make this coin even more interesting and valuable. Error: coins have always been a hot topic in the world of coin collecting, and the 1950 wheat penny is no exception. Some of the most valuable 1950 wheat pennies are those that feature minting errors, and these are the ones that collectors really get excited about. One of the most well-known errors for the 1950 wheat penny is the 1950 D/D variety. This error occurs when a coin is struck twice by the minting die, causing the deep mint mark, which indicates the coin was struck at the Denver Mint, to appear doubled. This double mint mark error makes the coin stand out, and because it's so rare, it can be worth far more than a regular 1950 D wheat penny. Another type of error you might find on the 1950 wheat penny is a misaligned die. This happens when the die used to strike the coin is not perfectly aligned, leading to uneven or off-center designs. While not as common as the double mint mark error, these misaligned die coins are still highly sought after and can fetch a higher price than their more typical counterparts. Collectors love these unique flaws because they make the coin stand out and add an element of mystery to the piece. But the 1950 wheat penny doesn't just attract attention because of its errors. Even without any minting flaws, a coin that is in exceptional condition can command a pretty penny, pun intended. The value of a 1950 wheat penny increases dramatically, depending on its state of preservation. If you find one that has been well kept and shows little to no signs of wear, especially one that has been stored in a protective case or safe for decades, you could be in for a nice surprise. And now for the big reveal. Just how much can a 1950 wheat penny be worth? Well, it all depends on the condition of the coin and whether or not it has any minting errors. But a rare high-grade 1950 wheat penny can sell for a whopping $83,000. Yes, you heard that right. $83,000 for a single penny. That's an incredible amount of money for such a small, seemingly ordinary coin. So, if you have a 1950 wheat penny tucked away in your collection, or if you come across one while sorting through your spare change, take a moment to inspect it carefully. Is it in great condition? Does it have any errors like the famous D/D or a misaligned die? If so, you could be holding onto a rare and valuable piece of history. Top 4 we're going to talk about a coin that you've probably seen countless times. But did you know that a certain version of this coin could be worth more than you might think? I'm talking about the 1976 1-cent coin, also known as the bicentennial penny. This penny is part of the U.S. Mint's bicentennial celebration, marking 200 years of American independence, and it's one coin that collectors are increasingly looking for. But don't be fooled, because not all 1976 pennies are created equal. So why does the 1976 1-cent coin stand out among the thousands of other pennies out there? Let's take a deeper look. The year 1976 marked a very special occasion in U.S. history, the country's 200th birthday. To commemorate this monumental event, the U.S. Mint issued special bicentennial coins, which included the famous quarters, half dollars, and even the 1-cent coin. But what makes the 1976 1-cent coin unique is the fact that it features the regular Lincoln Memorial design on the reverse, but also has a distinct 1776 to 1976 marking on the back, celebrating the country's 2 centuries of freedom. At first glance, the 1976 penny may seem like just another standard coin in circulation, and you might not think much of it. After all, millions of these coins were minted, and they were widely used in daily transactions. However, as with many coins, it's the rare finds and special characteristics that turn a seemingly ordinary penny into a treasure. You see, the rarity of a 1976 penny depends on several factors, and today, we're going to dive into what makes some of these pennies worth way more than their face value. Point one of the primary factors that can increase the value of the 1976 1-cent coin is its condition. As with any collectible coin, the better the condition, the higher the price. Most of the 1976 pennies you'll find today have been well circulated, showing signs of wear and tear. These coins typically won't fetch much more than a few cents. However, if you happen to have one in uncirculated, pristine condition, you could be looking at a much higher value. A coin with sharp details, no visible scratches, and minimal or no discoloration is far rarer than a worn-down penny. High-grade examples are always sought after by collectors, so if you've managed to keep one of these coins in perfect condition, it's definitely something worth holding on to. But the real excitement for collectors lies in the rarer versions of the 1976 1-cent coin, the error coins. Yes, error coins are one of the most thrilling aspects of coin collecting, and there are some fascinating mistakes that were made during the minting of these coins. For example, double die error is one of the most common types of minting mistakes that coin collectors look for. A double die occurs when the coin is struck twice by the die, causing the design elements to appear doubled or blurry. For the 1976 penny, this could mean a double date, or even a doubled Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. A coin with this type of error is rare, and can easily fetch a higher price than the standard issue. Another minting flaw to look out for is the off-center strike. This happens when the planchet, the metal disc that's stamped into a coin, is misaligned during the minting process, causing the design to be off-center. An off-center 1976 penny can look unusual, making it a standout piece for collectors. Because these errors are less common and visually striking, they tend to be valued higher than regular coins in perfect condition. Some of the more unique errors can even involve die cracks or other subtle imperfections, all of which can make a coin more interesting to collectors. If you're lucky enough to find a 1976 penny with one of these minting mistakes, you could hold a valuable piece of US history in your hands. Now let's talk about value. You might be wondering, how much can a 1976 1-cent coin be worth? Well, the price can vary widely depending on the coin's condition, rarity, and whether it has any errors. A standard 1976 penny in average condition isn't going to make you a fortune, but if you've got a high-grade, uncirculated example, or one with a minting error, you're looking at something much more valuable. For the right collector, a 1976 penny in pristine condition, or with rare minting flaws, could be worth as much as $73,000. That's right, $73,000 for a single penny. It's incredible to think that a coin most people toss aside without a second thought could have such a high value, but that's the power of rarity and condition. In the world of coin collecting, if you've got one of these rare coins, you could be holding onto something truly valuable. S0. What's the takeaway here? Next time you find a 1976 penny, don't just let it slip through your fingers. Take a close look at it. Is it in great shape? Does it have any minting errors or unusual features? If so, you might just have a rare treasure in your hands that could be worth a lot more than you think. Top 5. We're diving into a fascinating coin that you might have in your collection, or maybe even tucked away in your spare change. A coin that's often overlooked, but for the right collector, it could be worth a small fortune. We're talking about the 1978 United States 1-cent coin, also known as the Lincoln Memorial cent. You might not think much of this penny, but trust me, there's more to this coin than meets the eye. Stick with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why this particular penny is a hidden treasure. The 1978 penny may seem like just another coin, and in many ways it is. It features the classic Lincoln Memorial design on the reverse, honoring Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. On the obverse, you've got the familiar image of Lincoln himself, sitting as a reminder of the man who led the nation through one of its most tumultuous times. But here's the thing. While this coin might look like any other penny from the 1970s, there are certain factors that can make it stand out and drive its value sky high. So let's break down what makes the 1978 penny a coin to watch out for. First off, it's important to understand that most 1978 pennies are relatively common. They were produced in large numbers by the US Mint and circulated widely, meaning they are generally not very valuable in average condition. Most 1978 pennies you come across will show wear from years of circulation, making them worth only their face value, just 1 cent. But here's the secret: it's the rare, well-preserved specimens that have collectors salivating. Condition plays a huge role in the value of any coin, and the 1978 penny is no different. A coin that's been well preserved and shows no signs of wear or damage is far more valuable than one that's been worn down from decades of handling. In the world of coin collecting, a coin in mint state is highly prized. Mint state means that the coin has been kept in perfect or near perfect condition, sharp, clear details, no scratches or discoloration, and no visible wear. A 1978 penny in mint condition is much rarer than most people realize, and it's definitely worth more than just 1 cent. But there's something even more exciting when it comes to the 1978 penny. Minting errors. Yes, error coins are the holy grail for collectors, and they can drive the value of a seemingly ordinary coin through the roof. While most 1978 pennies you'll encounter are error-free, some have fascinating mistakes that make them highly collectible and valuable. One of the most well-known and sought-after errors in the 1978 penny is the double die variety. A double die error occurs when the coin is struck twice by the die, causing the design to appear doubled. This can happen to the lettering, numbers, or even the date itself. For example, a double-struck 1978 date on the penny can make the coin instantly more valuable, as collectors love these unique and rare errors. If you happen to find a 1978 penny with this kind of error, you could be sitting on a small treasure. Another minting flaw that can make the 1978 penny valuable is an off-center strike. An off-center coin occurs when the blank metal planchet isn't aligned properly in the minting machine, causing the design to be stamped off-center. These off-center coins are incredibly rare, and because they look unusual, they tend to stand out in a collection. For collectors, an off-center 1978 penny is something special, and will command a much higher price than a regular penny in circulation. But it's not just the minting errors that make the 1978 penny a coin worth paying attention to. The scarcity of coins in high-grade, uncirculated condition adds to the excitement. As time goes on, the number of well-preserved 1978 pennies continues to decrease, which means the ones that remain in excellent condition only become more valuable. Finding a high-grade example of this coin is becoming harder, and that's why collectors are eager to add them to their collections. If you've been lucky enough to come across a 1978 penny that's as crisp and clean as the day it was minted, then you could have a rare find on your hands. Now let's talk about value. If you've got a 1978 penny in top-notch condition, or even one with a rare minting error, like the double die or off-center strike, the value can be astounding. A well-preserved 1978 penny, or one with a striking error, could be worth an impressive $69,000. Yes, that's right, $69,000 for a single penny. It's hard to believe that something so small could carry such a hefty price tag. But in the world of coin collecting, rarity, condition, and unique features can turn a penny into a small fortune. S0. If you've got a 1978 penny sitting around in your collection, or stashed away in a jar, take a moment to inspect it carefully. Is it in great condition? Does it have any minting errors? If you find one with an error, or even one that's been well preserved in pristine condition, you might be holding onto something that's worth far more than just one. Top 6 we're going to be talking about. A penny that you've probably seen countless times, but have you ever stopped to think about its true value? I'm talking about the 1981 United States 1-cent coin, a penny that might just be hiding in your collection, or even in your spare change. Believe it or not, this seemingly ordinary coin has some fascinating details that can make it worth far more than its face value. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly why this 1981 penny is worth taking a second look at. And you might even have one that's worth a small fortune. The 1981 penny isn't just another regular coin that you toss aside without a second thought. In fact, it's part of the rich history of American coinage, and there's more to it than meets the eye. During this year, the U.S. Mint produced millions of pennies, but it was also a time of significant change. The country was transitioning into the 1980s, and the economic landscape was shifting. This meant that the coins being produced, including the 1-cent coin, were not only circulating widely, but also becoming an important symbol of the nation's ongoing history. Now you may be wondering what makes the 1981 penny so special. After all, it's just a regular Lincoln Memorial cent, right? Well, here's the thing. Most 1981 pennies that you find will be pretty common, and in average condition, meaning they're worth just a cent or two. However, the true value of a 1981 penny lies in its rarity, its condition, and some hidden errors that can make it incredibly valuable to collectors. You see, while most of these pennies were minted and circulated without issue, there are some that have unique characteristics that make them stand out. So let's take a closer look at what makes this penny so interesting. First, let's talk about the condition. As with any collectible coin, condition plays a huge role in its value. Most of the 1981 pennies you come across will show signs of wear and tear. After all, these coins were used for years in daily transactions, and over time they picked up scratches, scuffs, and discoloration. If you find a 1981 penny that's been well preserved, though, that's where the value starts to rise. A coin in mint state, meaning it looks nearly brand new, can be a rare find. These coins, often graded MS65 or higher, are highly sought after because they've been preserved in exceptional condition, with no visible signs of damage. But it doesn't stop there. The real excitement comes with the possibility of finding error coins. Minting errors are one of the most thrilling aspects of coin collecting, and they can significantly increase a coin's value. The 1981 penny is no exception. One of the most sought-after errors in the 1981 1-cent coin is the double die error. What exactly is a double die, you ask? Well, it happens when the coin is struck by the die more than once, causing the design elements, such as the date or the lettering, to appear doubled. This could make the 1981 date look like it's been stamped twice, giving the coin a unique and very rare appearance. Collectors are always on the lookout for double die pennies, because they are a true oddity in the world of coinage, and they can bring in a lot more money than a regular penny. That in addition to the double die error. Another rare mistake to watch out for is the off-center strike. This happens when the planchet, the metal disc that gets stamped into a coin, doesn't line up correctly during the minting process. As a result, the design is off-center, and part of the coin's design may be missing or skewed. These off-center coins are very rare, and because they look unusual, they tend to be highly collectible. A 1981 penny with this type of error could be worth a lot more than you'd expect, especially if it's in good condition. Let's not forget about another potential error, that die crack error. A die crack happens when there's a small crack in the die that strikes the coin. These cracks can result in visible lines or imperfections across the coin's design. While die cracks are usually small, they can still add a unique touch to a coin, making it a valuable addition to a collection. What's the big takeaway here? The 1981 penny may seem like a simple coin, but for those who are willing to dig a little deeper, it holds the potential to be a real treasure. Whether you have a high-grade example in perfect condition, or if you're lucky enough to have found one with a rare minting error, this coin is far more than just one. For collectors who are hunting for something special, the 1981 penny is definitely worth keeping an eye on. Now let's get to the most exciting part, the value. If you happen to have a 1981 penny that's in mint condition, or even better, one that features a rare minting error, you could be looking at a coin worth as much as $65,000. That's right, $65,000 for a single penny. It's unbelievable, but in the world of coin collecting, rarity, condition, and unique features can make a coin worth far more than you might expect. So before you toss that 1981 penny into your change jar, take a moment to check it out. Is it in excellent condition? Does it have any minting errors or unique features? If so, you might just be holding onto a coin that could be worth a lot more than you think. Top 7 and last unique coin. We're talking about a coin that's likely sitting in your collection, or maybe even buried in your spare change. Yes, I'm talking about the 1970 United States 1-cent coin, also known as the Lincoln Memorial Penny. You might be wondering, how special can a penny from 1970 really be? Well, if you stick with me until the end, you'll learn just how valuable this small coin can be, and why. It's one that collectors should definitely be keeping an eye on. Let's start by setting the stage. The 1970 penny was produced during a time of change. In the United States, the country was in the midst of the 1970s, with major cultural shifts and political movements taking place. This was also a pivotal time for the U.S. Mint. In fact, the 1970 penny was one of the final years for the classic design of the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, before the Mint began transitioning to the Shield design in 2010. This makes the 1970 penny a piece of history, as it marks the tail end of a well-known era in American coinage. Now you might be thinking, it's just a penny, right? Nothing too special here. But before you dismiss it, let me share a little secret with you. The 1970 penny has some unique qualities that could make it worth far more than just 1 cent. There are a few key reasons why this particular penny could end up being worth a small fortune, and it all comes down to rarity, condition, and most importantly, minting errors. First, let's talk about the minting process. In 1970, the U.S. Mint produced a large number of pennies. Most of these coins were used in everyday transactions, and over the years they've seen plenty of wear and tear. A typical 1970 penny you'll come across will likely have scratches, discoloration, and signs of circulation, which makes it worth only a single cent. However, here's where it gets interesting. Not all 1970 pennies are created equal. The real value lies in those that have been carefully preserved and show no signs of wear. These are the gems that collectors dream about. Coins that are in excellent, uncirculated condition are much rarer than most people realize, and they can fetch a premium price on the market. If you happen to have a 1970 penny that's in mint condition, sharp, detailed, and with no visible damage, you may just have a small treasure on your hands. But the real excitement comes with minting errors. If you're a coin collector, you already know that errors are what really make a coin valuable. When the US Mint strikes a coin, sometimes mistakes happen, and these errors make the coin unique and sought after by collectors. With the 1970 penny, there are a couple of key errors that make this coin highly valuable. point, one of the most famous errors to look for is the double die variety. A double die occurs when the coin is struck by the die more than once, causing the design to appear doubled. If you find a 1970 penny with a double date or lettering, you've stumbled upon a rare find. This type of error makes the coin visually distinctive and much more valuable than a standard 1970 penny. Imagine stumbling across a penny with a doubled 1970 date. It's an exciting find for any collector, and it's certainly worth more than just its face value. Another error to watch out for is the off-center strike. This occurs when the coin's metal planchet isn't properly aligned during the minting process, causing the design to be struck off-center. These off-center coins are extremely rare, and their unique appearance makes them stand out in a collection. If you find a 1970 penny that's slightly off-center, it could be worth a lot more than you might think, especially if it's in good condition. That in addition to these errors, there's also the possibility of die cracks. These happen when the die used to strike the coin starts to crack, and those cracks can be seen in the design of the coin itself. While die cracks are generally small, they can add a unique touch to a coin, making it even more desirable for collectors looking for something unusual to add to their collection. Now, let's talk about what this all means for the value of your 1970 penny. If you've got a 1970 penny that's in excellent uncirculated condition, or even better, one with a minting error like a double die or an off-center strike, you could be sitting on something worth a lot more than just 1 cent. A coin with these characteristics could be worth up to an incredible $79,000. That's right, $79,000 for a single penny. It may seem unbelievable, but in the world of coin collecting, these rare error-filled coins can command astonishing prices. So what's the takeaway here? The 1970 penny may seem like just another common coin, but when you take into account its condition, rarity, and potential minting errors, it's clear that it's a coin worth paying attention to if you've got one of these pennies in your collection, or if you happen to come across one in your pocket change. Make sure to take a closer look. You might just have a rare gem on your hands. Thanks for watching today's video, and I hope you found this information as fascinating as I did. If you enjoyed learning about the 1970 United States 1-cent coin, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future coin discoveries. Who knows, your next treasure could be just a penny away. Happy collecting, everyone.